Peace in, everyone. My name is Trey MacVelle, and this is the movie pie of John Wick, the Boogeyman. Welcome, my fellow fans of film. Come on in, sit back and relax. We're about to dive into some action goodness as we do a movie pie of John Wick. This is pretty exciting. I have to say, Keanu Reeves was not on my radar as an actor at all. I don't think that he's a horrible actor, but he was not on my radar at all. But when I saw that first trailer for this movie, I just went crazy. And I wasn't even I didn't even think that I needed an action movie, or I wasn't necessarily calling for an action movie during that time, a good old fashioned action movie. But when I saw that trailer, it just made me salivate for some good old action. Because I just got buried in superhero movies and dramas and all this stuff. And I was like, man, you know what? I haven't seen a good action movie in a while. And so when I saw that trailer, it got me excited. When I saw that Keanu Reeves was doing it, and I'm like, man, when is the last time this dude did this much action since The Matrix? Or at least, action that appealed to me. And I think this is pretty cool too, because I think one of the directors, Chad, if I'm not mistaken, Chad Stahelski, he actually was Keanu Reeves' stunt man. He's a stunt double, for during the Matrix movies. And if I understand correctly, an interview I saw, I guess they talked about doing a movie together at some point. And so, and it's pretty cool that they talked about ideas of doing a movie together where Chad directed it, and it never really came to fruition until now. So so I'm really excited for this to do this movie pie. For those of you who don't know, John Wick is a story. Here's a basic synopsis. It's basically a story about an ex-hitman who basically come out of retirement after his wife died, after his wife passed, and his wife gives him this gift as in the form of a cute little puppy. And the dog was so cute. It was awesome. But anyway, gives him this dog just to kind of, so that he won't be so lonely. And long story short, something ended up happening to the dog by these gangsters that beat it up and killed the dog. And now he's out for revenge. So it's not just an action movie. It is a good classic revenge movie. It's an awesome revenge movie. So we're about to get into the movie pie for this, and for those of you who don't know, movie pies, they are filled with spoilers. So this is your warning right now. If you didn't really pay attention to the title, this will be filled with spoilers. We will go into this movie in detail. And how we're going to do that, the forecast of the show, first we're going to dive into the 6 slices of this movie pie. That would include the screenplay, and then of course we're gonna dive into the visuals. The performances. Then we're gonna dive into the visuals, then the audio, then the direction, and then the experience. The 6 slices of the movie pie, and then I'll get into some Trey's tweaks, and then give the final verdict and score of the movie, and then we'll go from there. So pretty awesome, pretty excited. So without further ado, let's move on to the first slice of this movie pie, and that would be the screenplay. For an action movie, I was very impressed with how well written the story was. You know, yes, of course, it is a simple revenge story, but it's a well-written revenge story, I might say. I wasn't expecting that going into this movie. So as I unfold this slice of the pie, I gotta start off by talking about how impressed I was with the script. I mean, the screenplay was very impressive for on multiple levels, and I'll get to the levels. I did have some issues with the screenplay, but I want to start off with some of the amazing things I love it, which is just simply this. It was, yes, simple, but it was well put. It was organic and it felt natural. Like it felt like, you know, it took, you know, over the course of a few days as far as the end time length of the movie. And it felt like a few days. It really felt like, you know, we are on a brief adventure of a brief chapter of this ex-hitman's life. And it felt really natural, and I really like that. And honestly, you got to give credit to the screenplay for that. The screenplay, you know, if it was horribly written, because, you know, you can have simply written screenplays that also have a bunch of plot holes in it, a bunch of things that just doesn't make sense. And don't get me wrong, there are one or two things that don't make sense in this screenplay, of course. However, it is not filled with things that don't make sense. In fact, the quite opposite. It's filled with things that actually make a lot of sense. You know, if you were to give us the world that it portrays. And so I really, really love that. But I want to go into the main thing that I loved, capital LOVE, about this screenplay, and that is the world that it created in the Continental and the Cleaners. It created an amazing world that was both fictional but very believable. It was very believable. I mean, when you first, you know, so when you see the way it was written, and of course, you know, you have to give credit to the directing as well, but we'll get to that slice later on. But the way it was written as, you know, John Wick coming out of retirement, I thought that it was a very believable reason for him to come out of retirement. You understand that he went into retirement because of his wife. His wife, of course, got sick and she unfortunately passed away. But then he gets this gift after his wife's death. He gets this gift from his wife, it being this amazingly cute dog, with a note from his wife saying, basically, hey, don't be alone. Don't be lonely. Here's someone to keep you company. So it's this parting gift from his wife, the person whom, you know, to whom he left this old criminal world for. And then, you know, he bonded with this dog through his pain, and he's just on the brink. You can see, and the writing did enough for us to get attached to this dog and for us to understand that, you know, John is attached to this dog. And it's amazing. It's amazing writing because it gives us enough. And what's cool about it is, you know, right when we're thinking that, oh man, he's about to turn a chapter, he's about to start a new life, he's about to move on and move forward, the unfortunate thing happened. The most unfortunate things happen is these gangsters, these mobsters, beat the crap out of him and kill his dog. These guys gotta go. You feel for John Wick, but you don't feel for these guys. They gotta go after what they did. And the way that was written was very good. But I'm mentioning that because before all of that, you don't know anything about the Continental. You don't know anything about the world that John Wick came from. You just know that this is a dangerous guy. And when you get into the mythologies of the Continental, it was fascinating. It was mind blowing. I just was not expecting that. I was expecting an awesome action movie that really was going to keep me on the edge of my seat going into this movie, but I did not expect the well-crafted world that the Continental was in this movie. So it's very, very pleasantly surprised. In fact, I got to give it a bonus point because of it. Like, in fact, The script gets a bonus point because of how well crafted and well written this world and well created this world of the Continental was. This whole world that John Wick was a part of. It was so believable. I really, really loved it. Also, I loved the characters. I mean, I think the characters were fantastic. Starting with John Wick, folks. Hey, he felt like a real character. Like the actual character of John Wick felt like a real character. He felt like a real straight stone cold killer who also happened to be in love with his wife. And they really felt like a guy who did not want to be a part of this world anymore. He felt like someone who truly just wanted to be done, but because of these personal reasons, he's got to get back. So I love the characters. I love, Vigo and, I just all the characters involved. I thought was very well written. I thought they were very believable. They felt real and natural. But, I gotta say something about the screenplay, and that's this. The dialogue wasn't the best. There were certain, don't get me wrong. It sucks because on one level, I love the dialogue because of some of the cheesy things, but not so much, some of the things are cheesy, don't get me wrong, but there's some things that were like, that was cheesy, but that was also I liked. Like, for example, when Keanu's the dialogue, he's like, everyone, ask if I'm back, and I haven't really given an answer. Yes, I'm back. I'm thinking I'm back. I think that was the exact quote of the dialogue from that scene. That was kind of cheesy, but I kind of liked it. But I have to kind of knock some percentage points down because it was a little quirky dialogue. So it wasn't the best, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, if you will. But yeah, the dialogue wasn't the best, but one of the main things that I speaking of that scene, actually, that I couldn't get over it. The writing of this scene was just really peeved me off, if you will. If you know Balloon Shop, you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it made no sense why, after all that Vigo had been through with what he know about John Wick, the boogeyman killer himself, that he would, in that scene, leave John alone with his henchmen. That made absolutely no sense. Why that? To me, that felt so out of character, and it felt out of place with the rest of the screenplay. The rest of the screenplay felt so organic and natural, and it all made sense. Things, kind of blended into the next scene after scene. But this thing just was like a head scratcher. It's like, wait a second. Like, dude, like, he just burned all of your leverage in that church. Like, Vigo was so upset. He was extremely irate with what John did. And you would think that, okay, after all of the movie telling us through Vigo's own lips how much of a legend John Wick is, first of all, you would think that he would be the one that want to kill John Wick himself. That's the first thing. It kind of makes sense to me. But some people say, well, Trey, I don't know. Maybe he had such mutual respect for John that he didn't want to really pull the trigger himself. And to that, I say, okay, that's fair. I get that. But you would think that at least with him knowing John's reputation, that even if he didn't want to pull the trigger himself, maybe he would want to kind of stick around and make sure that the job gets done. Seriously, how many times has this dude escape death and pull off impossible tasks? You might want to make sure that the job gets done, Vigo. Really? So it was a little unbelievable that he would just leave John, in the hands of his henchmen to take care of the business. I'm like, come on, seriously. So I didn't like that. I rolled my eyes at that. The other thing that I thought was pretty ridiculous is, that Vigo, at the end of the movie, Vigo, he decides that he wants to suddenly, Vigo decided that he wants to fight John. I'll mention this a little bit later. I know a lot of people had a problem with the fact that Vigo changed his mind all of a sudden, and all of a sudden now he wants to kill John, now he wants to fight John or whatever. I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, I think that it was perfectly believable that at this stage, after his son died, after he essentially, gave the coordinates so that his son can be died, so his life to be spared. I felt like it was pretty unbelievable that, he would have kind of a real change of heart. And I'll get into this a little bit later when I talk about the direction and performances. But the point is that wasn't an issue for me personally. What was an issue for me was that John decided to suddenly fight Vigo instead of killing Vigo. That was a little much of a head scratcher. I didn't have so much of a problem with that as much as I did with the previous thing I mentioned. However, it was a problem with me. I mean, they're in the rain and John has an opportunity to straight up kill this guy. I mean, that's what John has been doing throughout the entire movie. Well, I might say, amazingly well, he's been killing people. Very enjoyable. However, at that particular time, I'm like, John, like, you have a gun in your hand and he tosses the gun in order to hand-to-hand combat Vigo. I'm like, this is the John who is want to go back into retirement. This is the John who's basically been tired of, all of it. This is the John who's, by the way, upset that Vigo killed probably his only and best friend in his business. So I just felt like it just didn't seem like it made sense for John to make, like I said, I think it makes sense that Vigo would want to fight John and kill John and all of that stuff, because he's kind of like at this, I got nothing to lose kind of, mentality. I get that, but it didn't make sense that John would want to fight Vigo instead of just straight killing him. So anyway, those are my main thoughts about the screenplay and some of the main issues that I had with it. Again, it wasn't a perfect screenplay, but I got to give a bonus point to the creation of the Continental. A lot of times people think about the screenplay, they talk about the characters, they talk about the dialogue, but they forget that the screenplay includes the creation of the world. Of whatever story you're trying to tell, the screenplay includes the creation of the world. And they, my family here, they've created an amazing world that was very believable, it was invigorating, and it was overall very exciting. It was very, very exciting. So I thoroughly enjoyed the screenplay for those reasons, and did not enjoy it for the other reasons that I've mentioned before. But hey, guys, it is time for me to go ahead and give this thing a score and a verdict. Tell me, what do you think about the screenplay? Put that in the comment section. But I'm going to go right now and give this thing a score and a verdict. In the screenplay, it gets 70% of 25 points, plus an extra bonus point. And that means it is a good slice. Now it's time to move on to the second slice of this movie pie, and that would be the performances. Guys, in an action movie, one does not genuinely expect great performances across the board. But I gotta say, this movie actually gave great performances across the board. Folks, let's start with Keanu Reeves as John Wick. Wow. I was extremely impressed with Keanu Reeves as John Wick. I said up the top that I don't think that Keanu Reeves is a horrible actor. I think that Keanu Reeves is more of a he's a good actor depending on the type of roles he plays. Like, I have a hard time imagining, not to say that any other great actor couldn't have done it, but I have a hard time imagining anybody other than Keanu Reeves as Neo. I think Keanu Reeves as an actor did such an amazing job as Neo in the Matrix series. So, yes, I do believe that Keanu Reeves is a pretty good actor. And besides Neo, he's John Wick. I mean, I'm sorry, but I cannot imagine any other actor as John Wick. Doesn't mean that any other actor can't do it. If you're a good actor, yes, you can play John Wick. Yes, you can play Neo. But it's very difficult for me to imagine any other actor playing Neo. It's difficult for me to imagine any other actor playing John Wick as well. Because that's how amazing Keanu Reeves is in this role. He became John Wick. Like, I did not see Keanu Reeves. I saw John Wick. And that is a testament to his acting. And some of the things that I want to point out as far as his acting as John Wick is simply this. I mean, he did an amazing job emoting. Like, he showed the emotions. Like, it's because of his performance why I believed that he really wanted out. Because here's the thing. There are several things that you need to believe about the character of John Wick. You need to believe that he is a bad mama jama, that he is the boogeyman killer for real. You need to believe that he is capable of the kind of things that John Wick is claimed to be capable of. You need to believe that he's a stone cold killer, that he is a man of focus and precision, as they say, sheer will. You need to believe that. But you also need to believe that he cared about his wife, that he truly loved his late wife. You also need to believe that he wanted out of this business. Like, you needed to believe that he did not want any part of this business that he used to be a part of, this illegal criminal underground that he used to be a part of. And all three of those things, Keanu Reeves did a fantastic job portraying. I truly believed that he was the boogeyman killer. I truly believed that he wanted out of this criminal underworld business and world. I truly believe that he cared about his wife. And it's through the emotions that Keanu Reeves has showed throughout this movie. So he was a great performer in this movie. Michael Nyqvist as Vigo. Wow. Now that was a surprise because when, if you remember the trailers, like you couldn't really tell what you were going to get out of that particular character. But Michael Nyqvist did an amazing job bringing a lot to that particular role, being pretty much the main antagonist besides his son, Yusuf. Michael Nyqvist, he really brought this, because the thing about him, he had a very difficult role to play because on one hand, he had to play a role of someone who truly was afraid of John Wick. But at the same time, this afraid of John Wick character also had to be somebody who you believed was this tough mob boss, this criminal overlord. You had to believe that he was a criminal overlord, but at the same time, you had to believe that he was terrified of John Wick. And that's not easy to pull off. Like, how do you pull that off? And an actor who is basically one note, it's very difficult to do that. So Michael Nyqvist did a great job at showing us both sides of this mob boss. Willem Dafoe, obviously an amazing actor, performed very well as Marcus. You didn't really know throughout the movie, you didn't really know where his allegiance laid. And, you saw that he was, of course, helping John throughout his character was helping John throughout the movie. And Willem Dafoe played an amazing, character. Like this is a character who is still very much a part of that criminal underworld that John Wick left. And, and so I believe that his character, and one of the things I love about Willem Dafoe in his performance here is he really played a role. He performed in such a way that made him believable and realistic. Like you felt like he was such a very different. He was very different from everybody else in this criminal underworld. So it kind of gave him a unique DNA. And speaking of that, Adrienne, I believe her name is Palicki. Palicki. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I'm sorry, I butchered her name. But Miss Perkins. Miss Perkins was fantastic. I mean, you saw that, she was a sheer, power hungry individual, money hungry individual. And she did a great job. So I thought she was, did a great job. Ian McShane as Winston, of course. Ian McShane is awesome, playing the leader of that particular Continental Hotel. I loved Ian McShane. You really believe that, hey, this guy is the boss. He's the big man. Lance Reddick as the hotel manager. Now, this guy was one of my favorite performances. It's nice to see you again, Mr. Wick. I love it. It's awesome. I love his performance. So Lance was great. John, I think his name is Luguzimo, I believe his name. But it's Aurelio. I mean, he's always fun. I mean, I love him when he appears in any movie. He's a great performer as well. But guys, the dark spot is Alfie Allen. He's the dark spot in this particular slice of the pie. I mean, every performer across the board was so great except for this guy. Alfie Allen as Yusuf was such an annoyance to me. And I know what you guys are going to say. Hey, Trey, his character is supposed to be annoying. And I get that. But I'm talking about the performer. The performance was just not, I don't know how to say it, but other than this, like, it just was subpar compared to all of the other performances in this movie. And so I gotta mark down this slice of the pie because of his performance alone. His performance alone is the single performance that really had me rolling my eyes. Not just because of the annoyance factor, because frankly, his friends were also very annoying. But their performance didn't bother me as much as Alfie's performance was. And I think it's mainly because he over dramatized his role. He overdid it, I think, a little bit. And it's not to say that Alfie is a horrible actor. I don't think so. It's just that in this particular role, I think he overdid it a little bit, and it just felt unnatural. Whereas every other performance felt very natural. So that was the black spot in this particular slice of the pie. Comment down below, guys. Look, this is a community. We're all film fans here. You tell me, what do you guys think about Alfie's performance in particular? What did you think about the other performances? Comment below and let me know. But while you do that, I'm going to go ahead and give this slice, the performances, a score and a verdict. And for this slice, it gets 87% of 20 points. And that means that it is a great slice. Now it's time to move on to the third slice of this movie pie, and that would be the visuals. Now, the medium is live action, and it is intended to be realistic. That is the medium of this particular movie as far as the visuals go. And, the way we do this here is we're going to judge it based on what was it intended to do. It was intended to be realistic. Folks, it was very realistic. It felt so wonderful. The scenery was absolutely amazing and realistic. And before I get into the action, which of course is what we all want to hear about, right? In the action movie. Before I get into that, I want to spend a little time talking about the scenery. Because I think that the scenery in this movie, the actual physical locations, is extremely overlooked. It all felt very realistic. Those aerial shots of the hotel itself, the club scenes and, all that stuff. John Wick's house, my goodness, I want to live in that house. But just the actual visuals, the scenery, the set pieces, those things felt very realistic and they looked awesome. They looked awesome. And I love the cinematography in this movie, the camera angles, the aerial views, the worm's eye views. I thought they were amazing. And the transitions were amazing as well. That one scene of John within the darkness, if you remember, it was the very first scene where John was he just checked in the Continental, and after John suited up, he was on his way down to the below club where he was going to talk to Winston, about, hey, where is Yusuf? This is personal business. Well, if you guys remember, there was a scene where John was walking and the camera was following John, and the camera followed John into a completely dark space. It was completely black. And so the whole screen went black. And then very next scene was the camera in front of John, and John came out of the darkness. It was so seamless and beautiful. I know it sounds like I'm geeking out because I'm a nerd about this kind of stuff. It was amazing. It was just amazing. Those little details to me, I think gets overlooked a lot, and I loved it. Now let's move on to the action. Yes, folks, it was perfect, in my opinion. In my opinion, it was perfect because I am so used to this shaky cam, can't really follow what's going on with the action in action movies and even superhero movies. But in this movie, it gave me action that I could follow, and it gave a lot more meaning to the action that was taking place. You know, I love the choreography. The choreography felt so realistic. Like that very first scene where they sent the guys out to kill the boogeyman and John Wick handled business in his home. Like, I love that scene went from, gunshots to fist, hand-to-hand combat to wrestling. And, like it just all felt realistic. Like, to me, when I watched that scene, and yes, I've seen this movie, like, I don't even know how many times. But when I saw that scene, every single time I see that scene, I feel like, man, this is what it would look like if somebody really came into the house of this cold-hearted, sure will kind of killer to kill this guy. Like, this is exactly what it would look like. I felt like nothing was out of place. To me, it was perfect. And I love what they call, what I guess is called the gun fu. That felt very realistic. And again, no shaky cam. Again, with the action, I got to give it an extra bonus point, folks, because so many movies don't do this kind of clear cut, very, thorough action that makes you really appreciate this art that you could tell went through so seamlessly that you could tell that these guys spent a ton of time on it. So I got to give an extra bonus point for that. And I even like the text that appeared on the screen throughout the movie. When there was talk about the boogeyman and like just the style of the text, just a little detail on the graphic design there. I loved it. Guys, as you can tell, I absolutely love this slice of the pie. Drop it in the comment section below what you thought of this slice of the pie, the visuals. And I'm going to right now go ahead and give this slice, the visuals, a score and a verdict. And for this slice, the visuals, it gets, no surprise, 100% of 5 points, plus an extra bonus point. And that means that it is a masterful slice. Now it's time to move on to the fourth slice of this movie pie, and that would be the audio. Now, the score for this slice of the pie, for the audio, I mean, was amazing and exciting. I loved it. Ding, ding. Like, I'm not even going to try to do it justice, but the main thing in particular was, it was fantastic. I seriously bought the doggone soundtrack because of the score. The score was so amazing. And it gets me so excited. Even thinking about it right now, I just get so many goosebumps. Oh, I loved it. It was so awesome. And you know what else was great was the sound effects. The sound effects was pretty amazing. It sounded pretty realistic. You can take for granted in action movies that when a simple gunshot or a bomb goes off and punches to the face and to the lips and to the knee and whatever, you can be you could be forgiving if you don't realize how incredibly difficult that is to mix those kind of sounds to make them sound not only realistic but also on point. If you guys ever were fans of the old action movies, you would see that like, let's say, I used to watch old school kung fu movies growing up, which would probably explain why I love this movie so much. But anyway, those movies, a lot of times, not only, we're so used to the words being out of sync, and obviously because of translation issues, but the actual sound effects was out of sync. When sometimes I remember movies where a guy will punch someone and then a split second later you would hear the actual punch. It was nauseating, but I still enjoy those movies for what they were. But again, it's not easy to match those sounds up. This movie did a fantastic job at that, and to make them all sound realistic. Where I had a little bit of an issue with this slice of the pie was really the audio. It wasn't mixed well or balanced well at times from one scene to the next. One scene would be extremely low audio because they would have like a dialogue scene or something, and then the very next scene or the very next clip would be an extremely loud scene, and it just did not blend well. It did not balance well. And that was a little bit of an issue to me. I mean, it wasn't like crazy, but I did notice it enough to where, it's a nitpick I gotta point out. So it's gotta, mock down from that. But other than that, I really enjoyed this slice of the pie. But that was one issue that I did not enjoy as much. But what did you guys think? I mean, what did you think about the audio? What did you think about the score, the sound effects, all of that stuff? What did you guys think about it? Drop that in the comment section below. Tell me what you would give this slice of the pie. I, right now, am going to give you my score and verdict for this slice of the pie, the audio. And for this slice of the pie, it gets 89% of 5 points. And that means that it is a great slice. Now it's time to move on to the 5th slice of this movie pie, and that would be the direction. Chad Stahelski and David Leitch did a wonderful job overall directing this movie. You guys pulled it off. Oh my word. What a wonderful job you did directing this movie. It was so unexpected and it was so refreshing to see a movie like this coming in the era that it came out in. People were so caught up, including myself, in so many different other not action movies, but superhero movies and comic book movies and all that stuff, and dramas, and there's so many different, and in TV shows too, like certain Netflix shows that I just, when you come up with an action movie, you would think that it would be so cheesy, and yet this movie you guys directed so uniquely different from all of the other action movies that has come in the past 10 years. Like, I loved it. I loved your direction. What an amazing job you did. And from my understanding, neither of you had a background in directing. I think this is both of your first directorial debut. So you did a great job. And one of the things I want to talk about is the directing choices that you made from the performances, to blend great action with a bunch of breathers. A lot of action movies, part of the reason why they don't succeed is they're just nonstop action, or they're not enough action. But you guys did a great blend of great action, and you also, gave us scenes that were breather scenes where you had dialogue going on, where you had some exposition going on. So you navigated your story crafting well throughout this film. So wonderful job to you guys with that. And also, not only did you give us action, but you gave us purposeful action. At no point in this movie did I feel like a scene was, an action scene had no purpose in it. There's a scene that I do feel like it had no purpose in it, but I'll get into that in a bit. But as far as your storytelling, your crafting of your storytelling, I felt like every single action had purpose. It made sense to me. As far as, what took place within the scene. So you did a great job with that as well. And, you know what? I also love, your scene selection. I felt like, like the way you crafted this story, I felt like it could be really easy to get so caught up in. And as far as I know, you had a ton of other scenes to put in this movie, but you guys chose to, the scenes that you chose. But there could have been so many more scenes to give us more about this continental stuff, which, don't get me wrong, I wish I would have had more of the continental stuff. At the same time, I'm glad you didn't give it to me, because you give me enough to make my mind wander in itself. Like you didn't overstep the exposition in this movie. And I thought that could have been a great temptation to do, but you guys did not do that. And I just truly appreciated that. I mentioned earlier that there was a scene that I felt was unnecessary. And when I say unnecessary, that's kind of an understatement. I mean, Chad, David, why did you guys put at the beginning of the movie what happens at the end of the movie, and you put up there 3 days earlier or whatever? Like, first of all, that's been done a lot. I mean, you guys have put so much uniqueness in this movie that it felt a little eye rolling that you would put that in there. That was so, it's been done so many times. And on top of it being done, with the way you guys made other things unique, that in itself wasn't unique at all. And not only was it unique, as I said earlier, it was unnecessary. It was so unnecessary to add a scene at the beginning, the very, very beginning of the movie, to add a scene of what's going to happen 3 days later than when the movie actually starts. I felt like you should have just started the movie, at the funeral. You should have started the movie at the freaking funeral, guys. Like, there's no reason to give us a scene. Like, I felt like the movie would have been so much more tighter and impactful if you started the movie at the funeral and just go on from there. And what happens 3 days later, we see it for the first time when it actually happens. So it did not add anything to your movie, guys, by adding that scene in the beginning. In fact, in my opinion, it took away from the amazing film that you crafted by adding that scene. The other problem that I had with your direction is, although I had no problem with Viggo changing his mind in the end. As far as, because a lot of people had a problem. They felt like it was a little weird that in the end that Viggo started going crazy and he wanted to fight John Wick and he didn't really care if he died. I'm like, man, if you look at the performance that if you look at the performance that he gave, that Michael Nyqvist gave, you would understand that he was performing as a grieving father. And I felt like he did a great job portraying that. So he's a grieving father. He doesn't care about living anymore at that point. He was drunk too. And so he was going crazy and, just giving the guy his gun or whatever. And he, so like, to me, it felt like it made sense that he would suddenly not really care about living and wanted to, face off John Wick or whatever. Again, remember that he was trying to escape John Wick. He was on his way to the helicopter when he realized that John Wick was chasing him. And so at that point, he just kind of threw up his hands, I thought. So even though I never had a problem with that necessarily happening, I will say, guys, that I felt like there should have been more done to show his transition. I felt like his transition was a little bit too quick. And you know what you could have done is, with the time in the movie could have been the exact runtime that it is. But the time that you gave us, the little bit of time that you gave us in the beginning of the movie, showing that completely unnecessary scene, you could have given us a little bit more room to give us a transition for Viggo coming from afraid for his life to now to not caring about his life at the very end of the movie, where he was just kind of, giving up on life. So, that's really it. Those are the two criticisms that I had with this slice of the pie. But overall, I really enjoyed it. You guys did an amazing job. Kudos to you. I really enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed the work that you did. And seriously, you could not be more happy with it, other than the two problems that I had, of course. But what did you guys think? I mean, did you have more problems with their direction? Did you have a problem with the things that I pointed out? I don't know. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't see those things as issues. I did. But comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. In the meantime, I'm going to give this slice a score and a verdict. And for this slice, the direction, it gets 91% of 20 points. And that means that it is an excellent slice. Now it is time to move on to the sixth slice of this movie pie, and that would be the experience. From start to finish, this movie had me entertained and excited. Oh my word. Oh my word. I saw this, seriously, I lost count how many times I saw this movie in the theater, and how many several of my friends, bless their soul, that I dragged to this theater, to the movie, to see this movie with me. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Thoroughly enjoyed. And you know what? There is 5 things that greatly intrigued me about this movie. And this slice of the pie is gonna get an extra bonus point for these 5 things. The first thing that really intrigued me about this movie was that it was a revenge story. And there's nothing quite, exciting, other than more exciting than a revenge story. A good old classic revenge story. Those are amazing. And this was well crafted. It was a very great revenge story. And it was a very brief, very simple, but very meaningful and deep revenge story, I think, at least. So I love that about it. So I love the revenge story aspect of this movie. I also love the action in this movie. That's the other thing that really had my experience way high. I love the music in this movie. I love the world in this movie. And the fifth thing I love about this movie is the mysteries, like the mysteries about the Continental, the mysteries about John Wick's past, the mysteries about that impossible job that John had to pull off. Like, I just love the mysteries behind everything. You know, I just absolutely loved this movie so much. The experience was so great. And I don't even know what it is, but every single time I see this movie, I just get inspired to do something with my life. You know, I know we're talking about criminals, and no, I'm not, you know, a hitman by disguise. But what I'm saying is that when you look at this movie from start to finish is filled with people who has made successful careers out of doing something that is very difficult to do, whether it's running a mob boss, whether it's running an underground hotel, or whether it's being a successful hitman with many nicknames, among them being the Boogeyman. Like, to me, it just felt like, you know, like this concept of, you know, John is a man of focus, of sheer will. Like, I don't know. It's just something about John Wick that really inspires me to do something with my life. It's like, man, what have I done? What have I accomplished when I see this movie? So I don't know if I'm the only one that thought like that, but that's kind of how I thought, and it just really made me inspired. And what I like to do with the slice of the pie, I do score it based on, hey, look, what did I take away? You know, because this is about my experience. What did I take away from watching this movie? And I took inspiration from watching this movie, personally. I took excitement from watching this movie. Again, it made me want to see it so many times. And I took intrigue. Like, I wanted to peer back into the world of John Wick. Really excited for the next one. Or more into this world. And so that was my experience. I mean, again, I can't say more phenomenal things about this slice of the pie. What do you guys think? If you were to isolate just your sheer experience, your emotional peaks of this movie, you know, what would you say would that be? I mean, go ahead and comment. Tell me what you would score this slice of the pie. I'm going to go ahead and give my score of this slice of the pie, the experience, a score and a verdict. I'm going to go ahead and give it. And for this slice, the experience, it gets 100% of 25 points plus an extra bonus point. And that means that it is a masterful slice. All right, so it's time for Trey's Tweaks. And if you don't know the rules of Trey's Tweaks, it's basically up to 3 things, if there are anything that I would tweak in the movie. But I'm going to give you up to 3 things that I would change in the movie. And the rules is that it can be no more than 3. But the other rule is that I have to stay as close to the director's and the writer's vision as possible. So I can't change anything dramatic, you know, such as, hey, I would tweak for John to be a woman instead of a man. I can't just change dramatic things like that. But that's why I call it tweaks. And so that's the idea, is that, yes, I'm going to give up to 3 things if I have that many. And this time, hey, look, I have 2 that I would tweak. The first thing is, again, you know, I would have started off this movie where the story actually starts. As I mentioned in the director's, at the 5th slice of the pie, I would not have added that scene of the 3 days later scene or whatever. I would have started off right there. And the second thing that I would have tweaked is I would have, if John had to fight Vigo in the end, I would have wrote it so that happened in a more natural way. Again, this is a tweak, so I'm not going to change the fact that John and Vigo fought, because that's a quintessential part of the movie, that they fought in the end. I get that. So I'm not going to change the fact that they fought. But if they are going to fight, I would have made it so that it happened more naturally. What I mean by that is, as it stands right now, the movie says that John just had a gun in his hand, could have killed Vigo, and he just throws the gun away and decides to fight Vigo. That felt very unnatural and unrealistic. If they were going to fight, I would have had it so that, maybe Vigo gets the drop on John, and Vigo gets a gun, and John comes at him before Vigos can get a shot off, and then they end up in a fist-to-fist fight. I'm not saying that that's what I would have done. I'm just saying that that's an idea of something that I think would have made it a little bit more natural that the two fought instead of John just killing them. So, and then anyway, that's just my two tweaks. I'm not trying to change the story, but that is what I would have changed in this movie. And I think that would have increased the score of this movie. Remember, when I do Trey's tweaks, it's all about what I think would have increased the score of this movie, at least my score. You guys tell me, is there anything you would have changed in this movie and in John Wick? If you do or think of anything, go ahead and put it in the comment section below, and let me know. All right, it is that time where we go ahead and give you the final verdict and score for this movie pie. But before we do that, we're going to give you a brief slice recap. If you guys remember, we said that the first slice, the screenplay, was a good slice, earning 18.5 points. The performances, we said that it was a great slice, earning 17.4 points. The visuals, we said that it was a masterful slice, earning 6 points. In the audio, we said that it was a great slice, earning 4.5 points. The direction, we said that it was an excellent slice, earning 18.2 points. And the experience, we said that it was also a masterful slice, earning 26 points. If you add all of that up, you get 90 points. Out of 100 points, that is 90%. But what does that mean for John Wick? Well, let's find out. John Wick is an excellent movie. So if this movie was a pie, it would be totally tasty. So there you have it, folks. That is my thoughts on John Wick. That it is an excellent movie, and it gets 90%. What about you guys? Feel free to discuss it in the comments below. Do you disagree with me? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's an excellent movie? Maybe some of you think it's a masterful movie. Maybe some of you think it's just mediocre. I don't know. That's what I want to know. Tell me what you think below. Again, let's be tasteful in our conversation down there, guys. We just want to have a great community here. We're all film fans. And yeah, and speaking of that, hey, let's actually give you the posing question for this episode. The posing question is this: who do you guys think will win in the fight to the death? John Wick or Jason Bourne? I am really excited to see what you guys think about this, because I think this is a pretty even matchup here. So I'm curious to see what you guys think. You should see the polling pop up right a little bit earlier. It should be up right now. But yeah, who do you think will win in a fight to the death? John Wick or Jason Bourne? And let me know what you guys think. I am super thankful for you guys. Thank you so much, as always, for sticking it out with me and throughout this movie pie. And I'm really excited. If you have any ideas for any other movie pies that you would like to see, please leave it in suggestions in a comment below, or message me, however you whatever takes your fancy there. Give this video a thumbs up if you like this. Subscribe, become a member of our community if you so daringly choose to do so. No, seriously, we have a lot of fun here. But thank you guys. I truly appreciate your support. I'm going to sound off right now. Until the next slice of pie. Peace out.